All right, this is the America Looking to War, Neutrality, and Isolation lecture. All right, America's seeking neutrality and isolation. FDR wants to remain neutral and in isolation. Neutral meaning staying out of it, isolation meaning only dealing with American stuff. All right, to prove that we want to stay out of other people's wars. Okay, before the war even begins in 1935, we signed the Neutrality Acts, and what the Neutrality Acts do is says that the United States will take or will officially take a neutral position on a war or any war in Europe. All right, so the war hasn't even begun. We feel things starting to heat up, and we're like, hey, we're gonna stay out of this. Okay, we actually make laws that say we're gonna be staying out of a European war. We'll go through these in class. All right. Then we start to move cautiously away from neutrality. 1939, the war is going to kick off. We're going to see Hitler start to do his thing in Europe, and he's going to start to win. So FDR is going to persuade Congress to pass a cash and carry provision. All right, here is the cash and carry. You bring me the cash and your own ship, so you can transport it back yourself. I'll give you weapons. All right. This is going to help France and Britain defeat Hitler, he feels, and it'll keep the United States out of the war. It's not our ships, and and we're not sending things over. It's not a loan. They're going to bring us straight cash. They're going to transport it themselves. All right. So I told you guys earlier that Germany and Italy were teamed up. All right. Well, Japan is going to join their side. Now, Japan will never come to Europe and actually fight. They're just agreeing to say whoever attacks Germany and Italy, that they will fight them as well when they're done with their own thing in the Pacific. So we have our leaders here. We have Adolf Hitler of Nazi Germany, Hideki Tojo. He is the commander in charge of the Japanese military, and then you have Mussolini, all right, who is in Italy, El Duce. All right, so America's going to start to move towards war. All right, we start building our defenses up. Remember in World War I, by the time we got involved, we didn't have a very large army. So what the United States is going to do is enact our first peacetime draft. What the draft is men have to sign up they don't have a choice. They get drafted by the military and they have to get ready for war. All right, we do this ahead of time, feeling that, hey, if we get sucked in, we don't want to be caught off guard. All right, and then we do the Lend-Lease plan for other nations. All right, FDR tells nations if Britain falls, because remember, after 1940, Britain's by itself. All right, the Axis will have free to conquer the world if Britain falls. So we need to figure out a way to get money to Britain, because Britain has no more cash to buy and carry themselves, okay? And so FDR says we got to become the arsenal of democracy. All right, and so in 1941 he sends the Lend-Lease Act, the United States to lend or lease supplies for defense. In the sense, it's, I will give you this tank or these planes. If they're not destroyed by the end of the war, you got to give them back, okay? Or I'll lease them to you, you pay me a certain amount of money, and then when you're done with them, you give them back. What we end up doing is giving $3.14 billion to Britain, $11.3 billion to the Soviet Union, $3.2 billion to France, and $1.6 billion to China. All right, that is equivalent to $700 trillion today. Or no, billion, 700 billion, I'm sorry. All right, FDR explained it in a way that if your neighbor's house was on fire, all right, what would you do? You wouldn't say, neighbor, my garden hose cost me $15. You have to pay me $15 for it. He says, I don't want $15. I want my garden hose after the fire is over. Okay. So Lend-Lease, we start sending ships, engines for ships. We send tanks. We send planes. All right, German wolf packs. Hitler deploys U-boats. Remember U-boats from World War I? They're submarines to attack supply ships going from the United States to Great Britain or other allies. All right, what a wolf pack is a group of up to 40 submarines patrolling the North Atlantic. All right, their goal, simply this thing called the supply ships, keep Britain from getting supplies. All right, FDR is going to allow the Navy to attack German U-boats in self-defense. So if those U-boats fire at the American supply ships, the Navy boats that are uh, helping transport the goods across the Atlantic, they're allowed to fire upon them. All right, what these U-boats, they're actually going to attack some of our merchant ships. All right, and what happens is the U-boats, or the Senate is going to repeal the ban on arming merchant ships. All right, and part of our neutrality acts were that we couldn't arm merchant ships. Well, now merchant ships can actually have guns on them and protect themselves. Okay, because if our Navy is firing at German U-boats all the time, then we're definitely going to get sucked into the war. Here's a picture just kind of showing Great Britain being surrounded by Nazi Germany with their U-boats. All right, the Battle of the Atlantic is just pretty much the Germans' control over the Atlantic, keeping shipping materials from reaching Great Britain and Russia. Britain can't produce its own food or enough food for its people, so it needs raw materials from other places. The Germans essentially are just trying to starve them out. All right. All right, America and Japan. Japan's ambitions in the Pacific. Hideki Tojo, Chief of Staff of the Army that invades China. Okay, Japan is going to go into China and start to take over China. They're also going to seize French bases in Vietnam. All right, what they're doing in Vietnam is trying to take the oil. All right, you need a lot of oil to fight a war. The U.S. is going to cut off trade and freeze their assets. All right, we see this as a very hostile action towards our French friends. And so we're going to say no more trading, and any money we owe you, too bad. Anything you've lent us, we're not giving back. All right, so in response, the Japanese take the Dutch East Indies oil field. Okay, that's huge. They respond to us by saying, fine, you're not going to trade your oil with us? We're just going to go ahead and take it. And so then we're going to cut off all oil trades to Japan. See, things are going to get started heated up on us. All right. Japan imported 80% of its oil from us. So, they had to either face the choice of stopping their expansion or seize the oil fields in the East Indies. And they were all about war. And in order to keep the war going, they had to take the oil fields. The Japanese feel that things are getting a little iffy between us and them. And so their first response is not to wait for a military attack by the United States, but to attack us instead. All right, so this is a small island of Japan, and by 1942, this is their empire. Okay, just a few years into the war, and they've taken over Manchuria, Korea, what's now Vietnam, Cambodia, all right, Burma, Siam, Malaysia, New Guinea. They're knocking at the door of the Australians. All right. And then the date that will live in infamy. December 7th, in 1941, the Japanese are going to attack Pearl Harbor. What Pearl Harbor is, it's a shipyard with our Pacific Fleet, okay, our Navy's ships out there. Over 2,400 Americans are going to be killed. 57 of them are going to be civilians. 1,178 are going to be wounded. Over 300 aircrafts, 21 ships are destroyed or damaged. All right. So it's a complete surprise sneak attack. It's a success to them. We see it as sneaky that they, didn't warn us, didn't tell us that they were going to go to war with us. And what FDR does in response to that is ask Congress for a declaration of war against Japan, and Congress happily approves. Okay, upon declaring war on Japan, Germany and Italy declare war on the United States because they are allies with Japan. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a two-front war. Remember how well it worked out for the Germans in World War I. All right, we'll go over that one. So this is Pearl Harbor. The red ships are the ones that got sank. The orange ones are heavily damaged, and the yellow ones are moderately damaged. The black ones are undamaged. They left all these small ships, but all of our main battleships and carriers with planes. They crushed all of them. Okay, they're going to take them out of commission. They have free reign of the Pacific until we can get them up and running. So here's just a picture of Pearl Harbor. You can see a ship overturned right here. The USS Arizona going down. Alright, the USS Arizona hit by 1 torpedo and 8 bombs. Alright, it actually withstood quite a bit until one bomb broke the deck and set off 1,000,000 pounds of gunpowder. Alright, that's going to cause a pretty big explosion. Alright, 1,177 men are going to be killed on the USS Arizona. They actually said they could still hear guys pounding SOS on the side of the ship all the way up until Christmas. And that is it.